Welcome to Divorce Mortgage Strategies, brought to you by the Divorce Lending Association, where clarity meets strategy in the financial side of divorce. Whether you're a family law professional, a financial expert, or someone navigating the complexities of divorce yourself, this podcast is your go-to resource for trusted insight into how real property and mortgage financing intersect with divorce outcomes. We don't just talk about houses, we talk about strategic solutions that protect futures. Let's dive in. Today we welcome host, certified divorce lending professional Stacey Ellison, and her guest, mediator Jann Catto.
Hi, I'm Stacey Ellison. I'm a certified divorce lending professional with Divorce Mortgage Solutions, and my guest today is Jann Catto. Jann and I met when I first got my certification and was looking for contacts in the area. I came across her name as a mediator. I emailed her, and within like 10 minutes, she emailed me back and invited me to come check out the Atlantic Highlands Women in Business networking group, which I did, and then we had lunch afterwards. And then she sucked me into the NADP as well. I owe a lot of my contacts and getting started in the divorce field to my initial contact with Jann. So I appreciate her as a friend, as a referral partner, and I am thrilled to have you on the podcast today. So Jann, please give us a little bit of background about yourself, your practice, how you got into mediation, and I see your sign behind you that says you are also a CDFA, and that's pretty unique to find a mediator who's also CDFA. So I want to hear more about that.
Great. Well, hi, Stacey. Thank you so much for having me today. I am the owner of TLC Mediation, and I have been helping people through the divorce process. I feel like my entire life, because my parents got divorced, and then I got divorced in my first marriage and got into the financial planning and insurance industry as a single parent. But because I was recently divorced, I started working with a lot of people going through the divorce process from a financial viewpoint, and became more and more specialized in divorce financial planning, became a certified divorce financial analyst. And then really it was those clients that led me to be a mediator, because some of the things that I was doing in the financial area was really helpful to them in being able to determine their settlement. And so couples started coming to me as a CDFA, and I thought, well, I think I'm actually doing mediation. I should get trained. And so then I went to training in New York City, and I absolutely loved it and felt like my background as a therapist, financial advisor, insurance agent, CDFA, all, are just such a tremendous background of skills and talents to help people in mediation through the process. So literally felt like this is my calling, and got a second website because I was still investment licensed at the time, and started marketing my mediation practice. So I am very passionate about helping couples to get through this very difficult process a better way.
And what a wonderful perspective you bring, having background knowledge in all of these areas to help guide your clients. I absolutely love that.
Well,
All
I'm
right.
no longer investment licensed, but I am still a health and life insurance agent licensed in New Jersey and New York, which, I don't act in that role when I am a mediator, because when I'm a
Mhm.
mediator, I'm neutral and I'm just helping the couples get through the process. But having that information and understanding all the aspects of insurance can be super helpful when people are trying to navigate all these big financial decisions as they go through the divorce process.
What role do emotions play in a couple getting to agreement?
So, I mean, when you hear about people, spending 100,000, 200,000 on their divorce and being involved with the courts for 2 years, it's usually emotion that is driving that process. So look, I mean, divorce is a difficult process, and many times, probably most of the time, one person feels more ready to be divorced than the other. So it's a loss for both parties, and I explain that to people in the first meeting. Like, even if you feel really ready to be divorced, it's hard to divide money and time with children. So it's a difficult emotional process for everybody. And it's the emotion that gets in the way of settlement. So I really encourage people in the very first mediation to really consider having a therapist or divorce coach to help them navigate the feelings that they're having as they get through this process. Because as the mediator, it's my job to get them to agreement. So I will try to help them. I will try to validate that their feelings are real and that they need a place to process them. But they're paying me hourly to help them get to agreement. And I really want to help them do that in the most financially efficient and time efficient way possible, so that getting, that this isn't the right place to process all those feelings, but that there needs to be a place to do it. And the more that
Absolutely.
they can stay focused on what we're trying to figure out, the smoother it will be for them to get to agreement.
All right, absolutely. And that kind of leads the cost effectiveness and all that. When a couple needs help from financial and legal professionals, how do you explain that importance to them? Because someone going through mediation is looking to keep the costs down. Do they feel like bringing in additional professionals is just going to cost them more money, basically? How do you explain the importance of that to them?
I explained to them that in the end of all this, they're signing a legal document that's going to be a legally binding document, and that they really want to understand what they're agreeing to and make sure that they feel comfortable with it and they feel like it's fair. And sometimes the only way to get to that decision is by understanding all the options. I always suggest, in addition to having a therapist or divorce coach to help them through the process, that they have some sort of financial professional involved, a family law attorney who is trained in mediation and collaborative process on the side that they can consult with as they go through the process, right? So you can have an attorney on the side that you touch base with as you're in the mediation process. Because when
Hmm.
you're in mediation, you have to be able to say for yourself what you want, what you propose, whether or not you accept your spouse's proposal that they're making to you. And you may not always know, is this fair to me? I don't know. I've never been divorced before. Is this
Right.
a good idea for me to do or not? Well, as a mediator, I can't say what's fair or not fair or what people should do, but I always encourage them, this would be a great topic to consult with your tax preparer around. This would be a great topic to talk with your mortgage professional around. This would be a great topic for you to consult with your family law attorney around, so that you can have the confidence to come back to mediation and say, look, I did some research, I got some consultation, and now I feel more ready to make the decision about whatever it is. And it is important for people to know that mediation is non-binding. So, right when we're in mediation, we are in a private conversation. Nothing that is tentatively agreed to is binding. So if you leave a mediation and you sleep on it, or you speak to a trusted advisor and you change your mind about something that you agreed to in mediation, that is fine. You just come back to the mediation and you say, look, I know we talked about this or that and we kind of agreed to this or that, but now that I've had time to consult with some professionals and sleep on it, I want to propose something different. That's fine. It's all conversation until the very end when the legal paperwork is processed.
Awesome.
It's important for people to know, because it reduces anxiety. If they know, like, look, we're just brainstorming and trying to be creative how we can do this in the best way possible for both of you. Well, that's different than, well, what if I say this and then I change my mind, right?
True. True. All right. So I'm sure in a lot of your conversations, emotions are running really high. And I'm sure you've heard every range of stories, and it's emotional and it's hard not to get caught up in people's situations and drama and all that. But what's your approach to staying objective while being compassionate to what they're going through?
If a couple doesn't feel like a mediator is neutral, it's not going to work. So it's really important as a mediator to stay neutral. My goal is to help them get to agreement, right? So yes, I understand this is a very difficult process and I do validate those feelings. But again, I always encourage people to have a place to process them with their therapist or divorce coach. But they want me to keep them on track. They want me to, because that is the most efficient use of their time and money. So if there's something, I mean, I guess there's just one instance though that we would perhaps really have to address, and that is if there's something going on in the family that could put minor children in harm's way, we do have to address that,
Yes.
right? So if there's something going on, somebody has an alcohol or drug addiction, we can deal with that in mediation, but we do have to make sure that the children are going to be safe when they're doing their parenting time. So there's sometimes safeguards that we have to put in place around that particular topic. But, everything else, I mean, there's a million reasons why people get divorced. There's a lot of things that lead up to that decision. And for the most part, mediation is future focused. And I don't even know, actually, the vast majority of the time, what were all the things that happened that led them to the decision to be divorced. But that's okay because New Jersey is a no-fault state. And my job as the mediator is to stay neutral and help them get to agreement.
Awesome. So when you're talking with clients and there is a marital home involved, what are your indicators that they're ready to make a decision? Because there's a lot of emotions that surround the marital home in terms of, am I going to stay? Are they going to sell it? Who's going to keep it? And all of that. So at what point do you see, and what are the indicators that a client is ready to make a housing decision?
So the vast majority of couples, even in the first meeting, if there's a house involved, they have some sort of idea about what's going to happen, right? They have some sort of idea that they're selling it or that they would ideally like one person to stay. Maybe they've worked out more particulars, but that is a conversation we have in the first meeting because I want them to get as much information as they possibly can that is accurate so that when they make decisions, which eventually becomes their marital settlement agreement, that it works. And I can't tell you how many times, especially when I was working early on as a CDFA in divorce litigations, nobody was testing to see if the refinance was going to be possible or if the cash out buyout of their spouse was even going to be possible. And then they'd have a signed marital settlement agreement and it says, oh, the parties will refinance the mortgage within 30 days, or there'll be a cash out of this much money to pay out the other party. And now they're divorced and they try to go forward with that and none of it works. So I literally talk about this in the first meeting and encourage them to meet with you, Stacey. And in fact, you have been good enough to actually be on the phone in a mediation with
Yes.
me and a couple who have questions like this, right? To understand how does all this work? What are our options? So many people think, oh, well, we have a joint mortgage, but this person's just going to assume it. And I mean, I guess ideally that's what they'd like given the current interest rate market, right? They would like that. But I say, well, you've got to speak to somebody like Stacey to understand if that's even possible. Because it may not be, right? And now your whole plan is, and then if it's not possible and somebody has to refinance, well, then don't you want to know if you would be able to successfully refinance? Because if you can't successfully refinance, how do you want to manage it then? I want them to have all this information from the very start. Because honestly, most couples that work with me, if they have children, 3 to 4 sessions and they're done. So we need to get as much information and as much education at the very beginning so that they can make decisions that are going to work. Because I'm sure you've seen it too many times.
I see it. I see it all the time. I see people come to me like, hi, I just got divorced. Here's my settlement agreement. I've got 30 days to refinance. And there's a million different reasons why they don't qualify, whether it's the way the support income is structured or the debt distribution or the assets. Like there's just a million different reasons. So it's so important to talk to someone up front. And keeping the home isn't just as easy as I want to take him off the mortgage. Well, does your lender even allow for an assumption? And if you do you understand that it can take up to 8 months to do it and there's no guarantee? So if that doesn't go through, what's plan B? Like, get that all set up ahead of time. And
you can even take it even further where if the person who's going to perhaps stay in the house is going to be receiving alimony, well, most mortgage lenders are going to require 6 months of seeing that the alimony is paid before they'll consider a refinance. Well, if we already talk about that in the first meeting, there's no reason why alimony couldn't start today and show that money going into that person's individual account so that by the time their divorce is finalized, they're very close to that time frame of being able to do it. So there's so many reasons why. I mean, that's literally in the first meeting. Unless they say, like, we're already in agreement, we're selling our house, it's listed for sale, and we're in agreement already on how that money's going to,
But do they may need to qualify for a mortgage on a new house?
Well, it depends on
then
what
they
they're
still
going to
need,
do
yeah,
because,
every case is different. But the other thing, just going back to what you said about the 6 month history, there's also a 3 year continuance requirement.
right.
So the alimony has to continue for 3 years from the date of closing. So if you're given 3 months to refinance, well, or say you have to wait 6 months and have this history. But if the alimony only continues for 3 years, you're not going to have that 3 year continuance because you've already used 6 months of that. So that
Right.
putting the right language into the settlement agreement to make sure that it's doable once the divorce is finalized is key.
I mean, I am really a fan of bringing in divorce professionals of all kinds with whatever the topic is that's needed because I want them to be educated. I want them to have as much real information as possible because they're making big decisions. I mean,
Excellent.
that's really why I founded the local chapter of the National Association of Divorce Professionals, which thankfully you did join,
Which I
because
love, yes.
it's a great opportunity for us to know other professionals who do all sorts of things helping clients through the mediation or the divorce process,
Yeah.
right? It's really important. So,
Having these referral relationships has been so amazing. When I have someone that comes to me before they've even thought about divorce, I can send them to you. I can see if they need an attorney. Just having all of these contacts has
yeah.
made it so much easier to take care of my clients
Yeah,
on, on a
absolutely. I really encourage that, bringing in
yeah.
other professionals who, whatever the expertise is, depending on what that is that we're discussing. So if the house is up for discussion, that's a conversation in the very first meeting.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. All right. So, what do you tend to say to clients when emotions are running high that can pretty quickly lower the temperature in the room and prevent clients from getting emotionally stuck during mediation, whether it's about housing or children or, whatever the topic? What's your approach to doing that?
Well, I think it really does actually depend on the topic. I would say that in general, the vast majority of people going through the divorce process, whether they have millions of dollars or come to the table with no assets and a lot of debt, there's always anxiety related to the finances of this, right? Am I going to have to live at my mother's? Am I going to have to stay on my friend's couch the rest of my life? How am I going to do this financially, right? So that's when I bring my certified divorce financial analyst skills into the mediation. And I do a side by side cash flow analysis for both parties based on where they want to ideally live. And that gives them a lot of information. We add in or subtract possible alimony child support so that we can look at both sides because the person paying alimony and child support has the
Mhm.
same concerns. So doing a cash flow analysis and looking at the actual numbers can really reduce anxiety when people are panicked from a financial perspective. Other things that are really hard that bring up a lot of emotion is, sharing holidays with your children, right?
Mhm.
Like that's really hard for some people to picture, not seeing their kids on Thanksgiving or their children waking up at their ex's house on Christmas morning. Those are really tough. So, sometimes if that's the area where they're really having a lot of emotional issues related to it, I may bring in a co-parenting expert who
Mhm.
can help them really look at the developmental ages of the children, what the children's best interest might indicate, which honestly, every parent wants the best for their kids,
Of
no matter
course.
what they're going through, right? So if they understand their particular child's developmental needs from a professional who has expertise in their child's age, it's going to make a difference. They'll be able to be more focused on, okay, well, maybe that's not what I want, but I really want my child to get through
Mhm.
this transition as well as possible. And if that's what we need to do for now, because that's going to be the best for them, they're more open to it. So it kind of does depend on the topic. But like I said in the very beginning, I validate the emotions. They're real. This is hard. This is hard conversation. Um, but they can get through it. Again, therapist, divorce coach, professionals to help them get educated and understand, get the support that they need as they go through the process. But my job as the mediator is to stay neutral and to keep them on track to agreement. And they do appreciate that. They know they're paying me hourly and my fee is going to be higher than the therapist or the divorce coach. So, it's better for them to use the professionals for the exact role that they're hired for.
Yeah. So I love that your theme seems to be involve whoever needs to be involved to help the client get through this.
To give them the
It's
information they need to make tough decisions.
yeah, it's a holistic approach, which is great because there's not just everything comes into play and interacts and affects emotions and
Yes, because
negotiations and all of yeah.
divorce
It's
is three
messy.
things, right? It's legal, it's emotional, and it's financial. So
Hmm.
you may need people in all of those areas
Yeah,
to help you get the
absolutely.
information you need to make good decisions. Because listen, I
Awesome.
always say this to people all the time. You know what? Going through a divorce is really stressful. You want to get to the other side and have some peace. You don't want to get to the other side and have 2,000 a month of credit card debt. Or if you do, you want to be aware that that's what you're doing, right? You want to say like, okay, you know what, we'll do whatever we have to keep the house for one more year, even if that means 2,000 a month of credit card debt. That's how important it is to us. And then we'll sell the house and pay off the debt. Okay, but walk into it knowing that that's what you're doing,
Make an
right? Just
informed decision.
correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
absolutely. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, I appreciate all your time and your candor, and this has been a lovely chat. So please tell us, where can people find you? How can they learn more about you? Where do we find you?
So if you Google Jann Catto, divorce mediator, you will find me, and that will lead you to my website, which is tlcmediation.com. And all of the information is there. My phone numbers, my email, my reviews, so people can find all the information that they need on my website.
Okay. And do you work nationwide? Do you work just in New Jersey? What's your area that you
So
can work in?
technically, a mediator can help people in any state because mediation is whatever the two of you, the couple wants to do, right? But if you're knowledgeable about the state law, it can be super helpful, especially if they want you to do child support calculations or
Mm.
alimony spousal support calculations. Being very savvy about understanding what the law says or the calculations in the state you're in can be helpful. So I do have people contact me from other states, but I say to them, you would likely want to have some sort of family law attorney on the side in the state you're in so that that person can advise you about the law in your particular situation. But you know, technically, a mediator is just there to help a couple navigate the negotiation to get to agreement. So, you know, it's not necessary, but I would say that the vast majority of my clients are in New Jersey.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. And do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you want to share with our listeners today as we wrap things up?
Yes, I do. It is try mediation first. You can always go to litigation, but if you start in litigation and each of you put down a $5,000 to $10,000 retainer for a lawyer, and 3 months go by and you feel frustrated with the process, or you feel like, hey, we're in agreement, we know exactly what we want to do, but we're stuck in this legal process and it's costing us an arm and leg, and we can't seem to be able to get to the finish line. That's hard to extract yourself from, right? Get your retainer back, this, that. But if you try mediation first, it's going to be so much less expensive, more private, on your own time frame, right? So if you're involved with the court, you got to be there during the workday. Mediation can be done in the evening, it can be done early morning, it can be done at lunchtime. You have so much more flexibility and it's so much less expensive. So try it first. If you try mediation first and it becomes apparent to you that your spouse is not being transparent or cooperative, or you know, you're just screaming at each other the entire time and nobody can hear the other person, okay, well, maybe you're going to have to pivot and go to litigation. But if you can get to agreement in mediation, which I would say 98% of all clients that come to me for mediation do, you are going to save yourself so much time, so much money, and the added plus of probably having a more intact relationship with each other as co-parents going forward, because you will be raising your kids together forever.
Whether
They're
you're married
adults.
or not, right? Yeah.
Yes. So if you can have a better co-parenting relationship or stomach the sight of each other at your grandchild's first birthday party, it's so much better for your family. Whereas
Sure.
litigation can be really just so toxic and damage people's relationship with each other even more. So that's my message. Try mediation first.
Awesome. I love it. Again, thank you, Jan. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you,
You have
Stacey, for the
a great
opportunity.
day. All
You
right.
too. Okay. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Divorce Mortgage Strategies, powered by the Divorce Lending Association. If today's conversation brought you clarity, insight, or inspiration, we encourage you to subscribe and share this episode with others in your circle. For more resources, or to connect with a certified divorce lending professional in your area, visit divorcelendingassociation.com. And be sure to download the free Divorce Strategy Hub mobile app for tools, education, and support designed to guide you through the financial side of divorce. Until next time, remember, in divorce, the mortgage isn't the problem, it's the plan.